Welcome back to Blackthornprod. I'm Noah. So this weekend I took part in the Game Makers Toolkit's Jam, which is a crazy game creation event that gets developers from all around the world making a game in 48 hours and around a given theme. It's basically very similar to Dare or the Global Game Jam, except it's organized by Mark Brown, a game design YouTuber. The theme of this jam was genre without mechanic. In other words, devs were challenged to make a game of a specific genre without a key mechanic or component associated with that genre. Some examples being a platformer game where the protagonist can't jump, a shooter where you have no weapon, or chess without turns. Initially, I felt very inspired. Tons of game ideas washed over me, hungrily waiting to be made. I thought about creating a shooter where the player can't shoot, but must fool various enemies to shoot and attack each other. A chess game with unpredictable pieces that have a will and personality of their own, as well as a puzzle platformer where you switch on and off various key mechanics like jumping, moving, and gravity. But for one reason or another, these games just didn't tick with me. Either the idea felt too ambitious or fuzzy in my mind. So after talking about game ideas with my brother for several hours, believe it or not, I decided to take action and prototype a weird little card game with no turns. It would basically act as a simplified version of Blizzard's card game Hearthstone, except the two players would play simultaneously and cards would attack every X seconds. The idea was pretty interesting, and for 1 or 2 hours, I excitedly mulled over the idea in my head while drawing dozens of cute, colourful little cards. But once those assets inside of Unity, which for those of you who don't know is the game engine I use to create my games, this whole card game concept began falling apart. Making the computer actually play cards and challenge the player was tough, and the whole deck system was more complex than I'd anticipated. Basically, the project was too ambitious and difficult, and I knew I wouldn't be able to complete it with the limited time I had left. And so I was back to dreaming up an idea, repeating to myself the words genre without mechanic over and over again, almost praying to some game creation deity to give me a genius concept I could run with. My brother, who throughout the game jam was very eager to help me out, offered loads of game ideas, including a sort of memory game which we had loads of fun testing but didn't really fit with the theme of the jam. Thankfully, right before going to bed by the end of day 1, I was able to prototype an ugly platformer game where the player must control 2 characters and defeat various enemies that move and attack in slow motion. I felt it fitted the theme of the jam pretty nicely. It was basically a multiplayer game without the need for 2 players, just one player switching between characters. And so the morning of day 2, knowing there was no more time to think of the perfect game idea, I decided to go full on with this slow motion switching between character game. It would basically act as a top-down shooter instead of a platformer though, the twist being that the player controls 2 characters that share the same health and that can accidentally harm each other. I then had fun making cute cartoony enemies, animating them and getting them to run after the nearest player. For the slow motion animation effect, I simply made a basic normal speed animation in Unity and then decreased the samples value here to slow everything down. Finally, I felt like I was making some progress, and that felt great after a horribly frustrating day of apparent idleness and creative block. I'm such a huge fan of game jams, having taken part and made a game for over a dozen jams, including 3 Dares, and I had the feeling that with each game jam entered, the better my results, the more clever my creations. And so entering the GMTK one, I intended to make something epic and impressive, which isn't a bad goal of course, but that thought and pressure took away a lot of the game jam magic, which is to simply try new things and have fun, making a little world alone or with family and friends. I'd basically entered with a very competitive mindset. I wanted to make the best game of the jam, and deep down my number one priority was to have my creation featured in a GMTK video showcasing the best games of the jam, instead of just wanting to grow as a developer and have a good time. Realizing that fact on the second day, I tried my best to change that mindset and focused on having fun, of growing my game creation passion and experimenting. I realized that the results were in fact a lot less important than the actual journey. Enjoying the game creation process is just so much more valuable than the ratings that a game will then get. So on the first day I was all about what game should I make that will give me the best results, while on the second day I really focused on what would I enjoy making. What game would just be fun to make? And obviously I enjoyed the second day of the jam a whole lot more than the first. So the key message here is to really not focus all your energy on what others will think of your game or the reviews it will get. I came to realize that just stifled my creativity and made everything more stressful and just less enjoyable. Focus, especially during a game jam, on finishing something that you find fun to make. That passion and joy you created with will really bleed through your work, and I believe that in the long run, what you make will just be more special and interesting. With that said, I spent the whole day 2 immersed inside of Unity, building at lightning speed a little top-down shooter, drawing in Photoshop a cast of squishy characters and assembling everything inside of Unity. Thanks to Unity Collab, me and my brother could easily work together, him doing some coding while I focused on the art, animations and design, sending assets back and forth between our computers. Though I've already made quite a few top-down shooters in the past, never had I done so in such a short period of time. Because of this, the game's visuals are very simplistic, the environment being a simple grey area covered in little grass tufts, with fluffy clouds dangling above the characters' heads to add a bit more depth and verticality to the scene. The bulk of my time was focused on balancing enemy difficulty and getting the game fun and fair. I really wanted to encourage the most possible the use of the 2 characters, so at some point in development there was a health power-up and attack power-up that would only trigger if both characters were standing near it. In the heat of the action though, getting both characters grouped together was a bit too challenging for the player, so I ended up removing that. Multiple weapons such as a healing staff, protective shield and bomb wands were ideas that never came to pass due to lack of time. So in the end, like for the art style, the gameplay remained very simple, but in my opinion pretty fun. You're mainly dodging and shooting, but having to handle 2 characters at once adds an extra layer of strategy to the mix that was really fun to design around. I was having such a great time designing the little enemies that I figured I would bring to life a boss character. He took me a good 2 to 3 hours to complete, and with hindsight, I guess I should have focused that time on polishing what I already had, adding a background music and refining sound effects. The heck, it was fun to make, and after playing Hollow Knight's Godmaster DLC with its numerous and epic boss fights, I just really felt like making my own boss encounter. So yeah, all in all, GMTK Jam 2018 was a great experience. I was able to complete a little game from A to Z and reminded myself that game jams, or just game development in general, isn't really about reviews, ratings and fulfilling other people's expectations on what makes a good or bad game. Game creation, for me anyway, is really about challenging yourself, having fun building a world and expressing your own unique, creative vision. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at my GMTK Jam 2018 experience. Though the Link isn't my most accomplished game, it was fun to make and I'm more excited than ever to take part in more game jams like the Music Game Jam and Legendary 43 in December. Heck, I'm even organising my own game jam which will take place on the first week of October. I would love if you joined. You can learn more about it via the link in the description. And of course, I'll provide you with a whole lot more information about the event near the time. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts of my new game in the comment section down below, or just join the BTP Discord server and chat with me there. With that said, remember that you can support me and my channel by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. It would be so appreciated and encouraging. You can also support me financially via Patreon like these amazing people. Okay, see you very soon for a lot more game dev content. Cheers!